Welcome to the January 3rd, 2022 meeting of the Harnett County Board of Commissioners. At this time, I will ask Commissioner McCoy to lead us in the pledge and the invocation.
Let's all stand, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us bow our heads. Dear Lord, my Father, we just want to thank you for another day. And Father, we thank you for giving us life to see another year, 2022. Lord, we ask that you continue to give us your blessings, your mercy, and your grace, because we need it. Now, my Father, I ask you to bless this board that is serving over this county. Give us the knowledge, the wisdom, and the patience to make the right decisions for our citizens and for our county. Lord, we ask you to guide us in whatever we do throughout this next year, that we will move forward in making this county a better county for the citizens and for our staff. And I want to say, Father, thank you for our first offenders, those that are standing out there and working to keep us safe too, and to keep our country safe, and to provide us our freedom. All of this I ask in your name, my Father. In your name I pray.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner McCoy. All right, at this time, we will consider any additions and/or deletions to the published agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I have three. I would recommend that you put this right after the public comment period. The first is to entertain a motion to appoint the new county manager. And right behind that would be a motion to approve the new county manager's contract, authorize the chairman to execute that contract. And the third one is we have a budget ordinance amendment dealing with the compensation there, also part of my compensation and the payout of Paula's vacation, things like that. So that, and Melissa has those amendments for you. It comes to a total of $15,300, and we would take that out of fund balance. But that'll true up everything for the rest of the year as regards to the county manager's office. So those are the three things we have. And Mr. Chairman, assuming that the vote goes through, we have the contract for you to execute as well.
All right, you've heard the recommendations from our interim county manager. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we amend the agenda as presented. Mr. Wood.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Nickel and Commissioner McCoy. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. All right. Now, the consent agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I hear a motion about approving the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as published.
Yeah.
Have a motion and second. Thank you, Commissioner Nickel and Commissioner McCoy. Any discussion? All in favor of the approving the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries 4-0. All right. At this time, we will open up for a public comment period. Each person will be allowed 3 minutes for a total of 30 minutes, which I believe would put us at 9:35. I don't have the information that Commissioner Matthews normally reads, but I will just remind everyone to keep it civil, no personal attacks, no profanity. If we hear that, we will stop you. Is there anyone that would like to speak?
Good morning. Do you need me to state my name and where I live, name and address?
Yes, please.
My name is Ronnie Kemp, Kemp. My address is 244 Chesley Lane in Lillington. Good morning. Last month, I stood before you, hoping to draw your attention to the complex and growing issues occurring in animal welfare in Harnett County. I'm here today to keep that momentum going and to keep the focus on solutions. I am proud to say that the comments I made last month triggered several other members of the public to voice their shared concerns. Those remarks also spurred some very positive and honest conversations with other community leaders about the challenges we're facing and some potential very real solutions. There was a common thread in many of these discussions. Harnett County would benefit greatly from the formation of an Animal Welfare Citizens Advisory Committee. This advisory committee would act as an advocacy group for the animals of the county and as a resource on the status of animal welfare to you, the Harnett County Board of Commissioners. I am here to formally ask for your support in creating this committee and to offer my service. I believe wholeheartedly that together the members of this community will rise to meet the challenge if given the opportunity to effect real change. I also cannot stress enough the sense of urgency with which I am speaking. As the population of our county continues to rapidly expand, so does the need for comprehensive animal services prepared to meet this explosive demand. Last but not least, I want to express my gratitude to each person who has joined me in echoing these critical sentiments and who has offered to be a part of building a brighter future for the animals of this county. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Kemp. Anyone else?
Good morning, Elizabeth Crudup, 234 Hamilton, Elizabeth Longman, 234 Hamilton Road, Van Level, North Carolina. Just rising to wish everyone a Happy New Year and to again remind and ask to this board to form some kind of racial equity commission or racial equity board because the issues in this county are getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So if you could just put it somewhere on your very long to-do lists to please consider forming or go ahead and form that racial equity board because people are dealing with a lot and they need some kind of way to address it with their local government, and the county should offer that. Also, I just wanted to ask and congratulate the decision on the Economic Development Director, and we look forward to seeing all the wonderful things that will come forth as that department continues to solidify. And also, I had one more thing to say, but I will reserve it. We'll keep it positive and upbeat. But just consider that racial equity commission as this county grows, and also looking forward to economic development director and that department developing.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Seeing no one coming forward, I'm closing the public forum portion of our agenda, and we will move to the motion to appoint a new county manager. Would you like to address that, sir?
Well, just for the public's information, the board has gone through several deep interview process. We hired an outside executive search firm to conduct the search for us, Robert Slavin and Associates out of Atlanta. I think they did a very good job. The board has had whittled it down to 3, and so today they will make the final decision with this person, and we'll be ready to employ them. And the second motion, the first motion is to hire them. The second motion is to authorize the chairman to execute a contract with them, which our legal department has prepared.
Does that
Thanks,
need
sir.
to be in 2 motions?
Yeah, 2 separate motions. Yeah. Do I hear a motion to appoint Brent Trout as the Harnett County manager, effective
18.
the 18th, when he will be sworn in?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, please. Make a motion to appoint Mr. Brent Trout as the new county manager.
Thanks, sir. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got 2 seconds, okay. I guess we don't need to have any discussion then. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries 4 to 0. Mr. Trent is now appointed pending his swearing in on the January the 18th. Now I need a motion to approve the contract and authorizing the chairman to sign that contract.
So moved.
Have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 4-0. All right, now we have the budget amendment. Who's going to address that?
I'll address that.
All right.
It's $15,300, and as I said when we were adding it to the agenda, this is necessary because you had whenever a manager leaves, you owe them their accrued vacation. So we had to do that with Paula. Then you had some expenses with me, obviously, and then you'll have some additional expenses with Mr. Trout. So the total of all that, to cover that, the finance director is recommending that we appropriate fund balance of $15,300 in the general fund to cover those expenses.
Do I hear a motion to approve this budget amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve this budget amendment.
Thanks, sir. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 4-0. All right. Do we have any appointments today?
We do have some, Mr. Chairman, the board, Harnett County Board of Equalization and Review. I see I have District 1, George Stammen, and there were several others here for the 5 districts that we have. Most of these I am much aware of, and the work that they have done on serving on these boards. So I make a motion that we approve the appointments.
And that's for the Board of Equalization and Review?
Board of Equalization.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second. Do we need to address that?
Yeah, we can go ahead. Do I hear a motion on the Triangle South Workforce Development Board? For Mr. Bly?
Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with this Frank Deloach, and I recommend him.
We have a motion to approve Mr. Bly for District 2. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on either one of these motions? Hearing none, all in favor of these two motions, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries 4-0. All right. We'll move to item 7 on the agenda, having to do with the reinstatement of passenger fees for the Rural Operating Assistance Program. Mr. Blevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. During the last work session before this board, or before this meeting, we discussed and requested the board consider reinstating the waived fee that we had waived it since April of 20. At that time, we discussed how that operated, and then the board asked us to kind of look back and see what it would look like at different fees, lower, and those type of things, lower, and also we added in what other surrounding counties were doing. Mr. Smith done an excellent job bringing that all together. Generally, what we did was just did comparisons with the number of trips we'd already had since the April of 20th, and just used those numbers from $3 in county all the way down to $1.50 in county in 50-cent increments, and gave you those numbers. We did the same with out of county, starting at $5, and used those same numbers down to $2 out of county. And that tried to give you what that would bring in as far as revenue, and as I'm saying, that the dollar ride is a fare type that is taken in for one set of funding, which is the dollar ride, which is the RPG roll program. And so we gave you those numbers, and or I sent it to you in an email. I apologize. And then I did get an email asking about a break-even point, and I think Mr. Wood has addressed that in a session. However, the one thing I do want to bring up is that there really is no break-even point with that particular funding, and the reason is because there is a cost to the county to operate the entire system, and that net cost right now is for this fiscal year is $400,000. So there's no way to break even based on that particular piece. So having those numbers, I would ask, is there any questions about the numbers we provided and the out of county or the surrounding county information that we provided?
Anyone have any questions or?
This is Commissioner McCoy. I don't have any questions, any at all, because I do recognize that this is a tremendous benefit that we provide for our citizens here in this county. I also recognize that there are counties that don't provide this type of benefit. And so therefore, after listening to your report and reading the information that you emailed me, I'm ready. If anyone else have any comments, I'm ready to make a motion that we leave it with the $3, simply because there is a serious chance that gas is going to go up. We want to continue to provide this benefit, and I think that we will be safe if we leave the fees as they are now. One more comment is that anyone that ride these bus service that work out of town in any of the surrounding counties that you all serve, $6 a day is nothing compared to what we're going to be paying for gas. So if I'm in order, Mr. Chairman, if I'm in order,
Yes, go
to
ahead.
make the motion.
Yes, ma'am.
My motion is to leave it as it is.
Okay. Let me clarify. I think we've been doing in-county $3 each way and out-of-county $5 each way.
That is correct.
Is that what you're?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's my
okay.
motion.
All right. We have a motion to keep those fees $3 each way for in-county rides and $5 each way for out-of-county rides. Do I hear a second?
Johnson seconds that.
I have a motion and second. Any further discussion?
Yes, I have a question. Like, have you had any feedback with the fees that are in place now? Like, I mean, it doesn't seem, I mean, to me, that it would be very burdensome. However, everyone's situation would dictate that. Have you heard any feedback, or
We have not had any feedback per se, but I will say the numbers have increased because it was waived.
okay,
So the average is usually we're showing 15,612. We average 12,000 a year. So I know that the ridership increased,
okay,
and it's probably because it was free. And to be quite honest, you can use fares at zero, but there would probably a run on it, and then our capacity to fill that. So, having said that, there was no comments whatsoever about it.
I mean, I just know that this is a tool for public transportation that we're using, and assuming that a majority of them are low income or fixed income. Just sure that wasn't something that was kind of out of whack that we're.
Well, like I said, we never received any comment up or down. And the other thing that we'd like to do is, if the board approves it today, to go back to it, we'd like to give a couple weeks to advertise that we're going back to that instead of just initiating it.
Do you want to make it effective January 15th or February 1st?
I'd prefer February 1st.
Is that agreeable with the board?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to amend your motion to make these fees be reinstated on effective February 1st?
I will rescind my motion and make another motion that we will continue to have the fees that we have now and make these fees effective as of February the 1st.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy.
Second her amended motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Blevins. All right. Mr. Wood, do you want to talk about the changing the dates or amending the dates on the CIP and the planning retreat?
Right. We are recommending to you that we back those dates up a little bit. The primary reason is to give the new county manager an opportunity to get on board before we present you with the CIP. Mr. Trout will begin work here January the 18th. So we're recommending that you back up the presentation on the CIP by the staff either Monday, the 31st of January, or February 1. I would recommend February 1. That's a Tuesday. Y'all are used to having Tuesday work sessions, and this is basically would be a work session. On February the 7th, we would recommend that you hold a public hearing. I think it's called a public comment period. On the CIP, and that's something you normally do on that, let the public have input into the CIP. And once we present it on February the 1st, then we would obviously get it out on the website so everybody could look at it. Because at that point, it's our recommendation, but it hadn't been approved by you. Then on the week of the 14th, and we'll need to pick a date on that. We originally were going to do it on the 15th, but I'm told that we're having some sort of meeting, and to be honest, I've forgotten what it was, but it's pretty much an all-day meeting, so we need to pick, we were hoping to pick a date sometime during that week at your convenience, and at that point then, you would hold an all-day planning retreat, which is where you come in and establish your goals and objectives for the next year. And then that's the basis for the manager preparing the budget for you, which he'll present to you in May.
I think on the 15th of February, we have a work session at 9 o'clock that morning.
Yeah.
And then at 12 o'clock, we have the second meeting with legislative delegation, all the municipalities and HRW to discuss water and sewer.
Your
capacity.
planning retreat is going to take all day.
Right.
So we need to have a full day to do that. So that's why we didn't put it on the 15th. But basically, I mean, 14th, 16th, 17th, or 18th, any of those days you wanted to do it. And that should still leave us plenty of time to prepare everything after that to complete your budget and your CIP.
Does anyone have any conflict with the 17th? Commissioner McCoy,
No.
are you,
I'll be good the 17th.
okay, let's do the planning retreat on the 17th.
Okay.
We call it something else. I know I say this every year now. It seems like it's something that's fun. It sounds fun, but it's.
We can call it a planning work session if you'd
That's,
like.
that's more realistic.
That's more what it's like.
Well, the other thing we can stress also is there are some jurisdictions that go out of town to do this, and they usually pick someplace like Pinehurst or something like that. We're doing it here. We're staying in town, you know. We will feed you lunch.
So we
Now,
got-
the one other thing I did want to mention there, and that is on the planning retreat, there's two ways to do that. One is to hire a moderator or a facilitator, and the other is that the manager does the moderating or facilitating. I do not recommend that. I've done them both ways, and it's very hard to participate in the discussion and also try to moderate the meeting. So what we're proposing to you is, we haven't nailed down exactly who yet, but we're thinking about using someone from the UNC School of Government. They have a number of faculty members who do these things regularly. And another possibility would be to use Mid-Carolina COG and some of their staff. They also have some people who do this. So,
we also haven't nailed down the location yet.
Right.
We're still having discussions about the location for the
right,
planning retreat.
that's right. It will be in Harnett County. We just don't know
Yes.
which building yet. Okay. Is everybody okay with using an outside moderator or facilitator?
I'm okay with it. Have a problem. I don't have a problem.
Okay.
It'd be good. And I just want to make a comment. We did stay in Harnett County the last time we had our retreat.
Right.
We had it at the Shoptown new building
Yeah.
and gave everybody a chance to review the review and look at the building and see, what we had out there. If I'm in order, Mr. Trump, we had a beautiful facility here. I think it would be the ideal place to have it.
We did it last year at the old building. So.
So, I think I would suggest, do I need to make a motion or what?
I would ask the board to allow me and Melissa and the manager to make a recommendation on where to have this if the board approves. Okay. Okay. All right, so Melissa, we'll get together with George before he leaves, or Brent when he gets here.
George on the way out.
Well, just to reiterate then, so we will present the CIP to you on February 1. We'll have on February the 7th, we'll hold the public hearing. And then on the 17th, we'll hold the planning retreat. And we'll have Melissa do all the necessary notices for the public meetings on all of that. So that is the motion, Mr. Chairman.
And the retreat is scheduled for 2/17.
That's right.
Do I hear a motion approving these dates?
Second.
Have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. All right. Moving to item 8. Mr. Wood, would you like to address that?
Yes, sir. You may be wondering why this one is separate from the next motion, which is the rest of the job classifications. That's because I had prepared this one first. We knew we had the money for this. So we were going to move forward with this regardless. Then when we found out we had the money, we were able to do the others. Rather than confuse the issue, I just kept that as a separate item. But it's essentially the same thing. So as I said in the memo to you, we continue to struggle with a higher than normal employee turnover rate. Everybody is, but ours has become particularly acute, particularly in certain areas. And one of those areas is in water and sewer. As Steve Ward said in his attached memo here, we've lost 4 water plant operators within the last 3 or 4 months. And, you know, these are very difficult positions to fill. There's a real shortage. And so we can't afford to keep losing these people because it takes a while to train them. And there are about 3 or 4 different levels of these folks. And the more sophisticated your plant is, the higher level people you need. And obviously, with a 42 million gallon a day water plant, you know, ours is one of the biggest classifications that you could have. And this goes back to the problem we were facing with the Sheriff's Department and all the other jobs, which you've already taken up roughly 10%. And that is that for about the last 4 years, there's been no cost of living adjustment. And so while the jurisdictions around us have gone up on that, we have not. And so it's really put us in a deficit as far as trying to retain our people. And as y'all know, there's a lot of cost associated with retraining people and getting them up to speed on whatever their particular job is. So what the recommendation is from myself and also Steve Ward is that you take these positions up the equivalent of 2 pay grades, which would be roughly 10%, which matches what we've done with the other positions that you've looked at previously. You've done 2 batches. One was the sheriff's LEOs back in June when you adopted the budget. And then I believe we came back in August when we realized that we had more property tax coming in than had been estimated. Once we sent out the bills in August, we knew what the exact number was. Then we were able to give increases to the EMS, Hearts, and the building inspectors. So this would equal that. The cost for the half year, which we're in now, because we would like to make these effective with the January payroll that starts January the 16th. The cost of that for the rest of the fiscal year would be $322,027. On a full year basis, it would be $644,053.49. Y'all know this, but I think for the public, I do want to stress, this does not impact the general fund because Harnett Regional Water is financed by the fees and charges on the water and sewer system. So it would come out of that revenue source, not the general fund. So that's basically it. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have on it. But this with the next motion that for your consideration, basically, if you do this one and you do that one, what it would mean is virtually all of our employees, with a few minor exceptions, will have gotten a 10% increase. And that's to offset this turnover rate that we're struggling with right now.
Any comments or questions concerning this proposal?
I'll make a comment. I think this is absolutely outstanding. Long time coming, long time needed. I'd like to thank the staff because it's probably been something I've had concerns and addressed. You guys have pulled through and made it happen all within, seems to be like a year time even on the it's been on the chopping block and wanting to happen for years and years and years. So, very good. Kudos.
Thank you.
I would like to make a comment, Commissioner McCoy,
Yes, ma'am.
if I may. For the two items here, number 9 and 10, I will wholeheartedly approve this. And you have my approval for this to be done because we are way behind time. We need to value our employees in this county. And I've been preaching that song ever since I've been sitting in this seat. So kudos to those to the commissioners and all. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. Each employee that works for this county needs to know that they are valued.
That's right.
And that's all I've been trying to say since I've been sitting in this seat, even though a lot of it has been misinterpreted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy. And I agree with your comments totally, Ms. McCoy. Anything else? Do I hear a motion to approve this across-the-board salary increase for Harnett Regional Water?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the recommendation for the Harnett Regional Water pay adjustments.
Do I hear a second?
Johnson seconds.
I got a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, that motion carries 4-0. And now we will move to item 10.
I would gladly make this motion.
I was looking at you.
And since I know Kimberly knows that we're going in the right direction as far as our finances and all,
Right.
I make a motion that we approve this job classification plan. That is my motion.
Okay,
Second.
have a motion and a second. Do we need any discussion on this?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make a few comments.
Okay,
I'd like to explain, really for the benefit of our employees, the reason that we have not done this sooner is I recognized when I first came here, we had this problem because we addressed it with the Sheriff's Department. And it became obvious to me pretty shortly thereafter that we were having this problem in other departments. And so when I was looking for sources of revenue, the two biggest sources of revenue for the county are the property tax and the sales tax. And so I knew that in August you would send out the property tax bills. And so they did an estimation for the budget in early May, but that's an estimation. Well, in August, when you send out the bills, then you know an exact number because it's what you build minus what you don't collect. but we have a great collection rate of well over 98 or 99%. So we applied that. So that's how we were able to do the EMS, the hearts, and the inspectors, and that's why we were able to do them. I believe it was effective in September. So that left the rest of these positions. We knew we could do Harnett Regional Water because they're self-supported. So we've taken care of that. And Steve had come to me and said, I'm really having major turnover problems, and we really need to do something with it. So that's why we're able to do that. So that leaves the rest of the employees. Well, as I told you previously, and what I said in the memo to you is, we were waiting on two pieces of information before we could, I had to know that we had a recurring source of revenue, because of course jobs, that's not a one-time expense. It's a recurring expense. So the two pieces of information that I needed was, one, I needed the audit, because I needed to know precisely how did we end the year, and are we still on a positive trend, which I give Kimberly a lot of credit for, and Lisa McFadden, your budget director, because you have a history now of underspending your budget each year, and they have been building back your fund balance. Now, the good news is they already had you up to 24% of expenditures worth of reserves. In other words, you had the amount of money that could have covered 24% of your budgeted expenditures. The state requires a minimum of 8. Your policy requires 20. It says 15, but the target really is 20, is the way it's worded. So you were at 24. So actually, the prior year, I think you crossed that threshold. So what I was waiting to see is it still a positive trend? And the answer is yes. We underspent the budget by $5.8 million, and that took it up to 28.8% of unassigned fund balance. The unassigned fund balance is the amount of fund balance that you have available that you could spend. And so since you're saying, but of that, you want 20% left in reserve, to look at it another way, you have 8.8% of unassigned fund balance that if something did come up and you needed to spend it, you could do that and still be well within your budget. So what I'm telling you is you're in very good financial condition as far as your reserves. The issue has been trying to get these salaries up where they need to be and making sure we'd still be in good financial condition as far as having a balanced budget. With that kind of underspending of the budget, I'm very comfortable that you'll have that. The second thing that I was waiting on was the sales tax revenue. As I told you, it's your second largest revenue source. We had already used your first one, which was the property tax, back in August. So the issue with getting good data on the sales tax is that sales tax is received from the Department of Revenue monthly, but it has a 3-month lag. So as you know, retail people and others, they send their payments in to the state, not the county. And then what happens at the state level, the Department of Revenue, it takes them a while to divvy all that up, because there's multiple recipients below the state level, particularly counties and cities, who get that revenue. And the school system gets part of it as well. So because of that, it's a 3-month lag. What that means is that on December, the early part of December, we got the information for September. So we had July, August, and September. I would like a little longer trend line than that, but I also look back at April, May, and June. And the trend line is all positive. There is growth over what we budgeted. Your staff, correctly in my opinion, had budgeted for it to be flat, no growth. The reason for that, that's unusual. But the reason for that is, you may remember the prior year during COVID, your sales tax spiked dramatically. And so they were a little leery of, that was uncharted waters. And we weren't sure if that was due to a lot of people, more people shopping online and all that, because, you know, they were fearful of going out during, remember that was when COVID first started. So, as I said, I don't question their decision at all. I think they made the right decision. They gave you a conservative budget that hopefully, if things went back down a little bit, you know, you could live with that without having to cut any services or anything. But the good news is the trend line continues to still go up. We're not a windfall like you got the previous year, but growing nonetheless. So I got with Lisa and Kimberly. We discussed it in detail, and we're all comfortable that we think you're going to take in at least $1 million more in sales tax than we budgeted. We think that's a conservative number. It should come in better than that. And I do want to stress that, so the numbers we have is July, August, September, so we don't even have the November, December, Christmas crunch that you normally have, which, you know, adds to it quite a bit. So having said that, I've had a committee of the 2 assistant managers. And if you don't know it, Brian is over the human resources department. You know, Heather works for him. So he's been heavily involved in it. Lisa as the budget director, Kimberly as the finance director, and myself. So we were the team that I put together to look at all of this. They vetted it. And we're very comfortable making this recommendation to you. It would be, for most people, it would be equivalent of 10% increases, 2 pay grades up. There are a few exceptions, and I'm going to ask Brian to come up and kind of walk you through who's covered by this. Brian, I think you had it. And the other thing, I just want to commend all 4 of those people, and particularly Lisa. She did all of the spreadsheets that you're seeing here. Kimberly double-checked the math on them and everything. But Lisa did a tremendous amount of work in a very short period of time, 3 days worth. And one of them, she even gave up a day of her vacation to get it done for us, because she understood the importance of trying to get this done as quickly as we could. But all of them have contributed tremendously to it. I just want to thank them for that. So Brian, if you kind of go over the list.
Yes, so in addition to the memo that Mr. Wood provided you, there is an ordinance amending the job classification and compensation plan in your packet with this item. And it, as Mr. Wood stated, it would provide all county positions with a 2-grade reclassification, which is roughly a 10% increase effective January 16th, with several exceptions, which are listed in the ordinance. So those exceptions include detention officers, assistant shift supervisors, and shift supervisors. These positions were all reclassified in January of 2020 previously to bring them up to a competitive rate. Sworn law enforcement officers, as Mr. Wood mentioned, this was done in June, effective, I believe, in July of this past year, or last year, excuse me. Employees of Harnett County Emergency Services, with the exception of 2 EMS billing and insurance specialists who were not reclassified along with the rest of the department last August. The positions within development services of central permitting technician, senior central permitting technician, project coordinator / central permitting technician, code enforcement officer 2, code enforcement officer 3, assistant manager of building services, and manager of building services. Those positions were all reclassified again in the summer of last year. Your elections deputy director, election technician, and election specialist positions in the Board of Elections were given a 1-grade reclassification in January of 2020. So this would only give them a 1-grade reclass to make up, to get them the rest of the way to that 2-grade reclassification. The General Services Director, the Economic Development Director. The position will be reclassified 2 grades. However, the employee in this position, actually I believe starts today, um, but was hired at an agreed upon salary, so that salary will remain the same. And then employees of Harnett Regional Jetport, since these positions were created and hired in June of 2021, they were assigned grades based on the market at that time. So those are the exceptions to the reclassification.
So just to recap, basically everyone who hasn't gotten one before, excluding Harnett Regional because you just gave them theirs, gets the two grades up, except for the exceptions we just gave to you. So that covers your entire workforce, and that is full-time and part-time.
Yes, ma'am.
Going back to the Board of Election,
Yes, ma'am.
what are the job classifications in that department? Like, for instance, what is Clara's job classification?
Her grade,
A grade.
I believe it's a 27, but I'm not 100% sure.
But that makes her the deputy, not the deputy director, but the director, right?
Yes, ma'am.
She is the director.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Who is the deputy director?
At this point, that position is vacant. The previous deputy director retired, I believe, in
That was Claudia.
Yes, ma'am.
She retired.
Yes, ma'am.
So
And
we haven't replaced Claudia.
no, ma'am. Just for your information, the Board of Elections is looking at that position prior to filling it, and I think they're going to determine whether they would like to look at the position's responsibilities to see where that should be graded, and I believe they will be coming back with a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners.
Sounds good. So the director was given a raise. What's that, last year, 2020?
January of 2020, the entire department was reclassified 1 grade.
Okay. Raised 1 grade.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So
Just-
they got paid based on that 1 grade.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It resulted in roughly a 5% increase for the department. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, you asked them a question.
And that's why we're only taking them up 5, because we were trying to get, basically, you had a pay plan done in 17, and you fully implemented that. Well, when you bring in an outside consultant, you do the pay plan, that's theoretically, that's supposed to be matching the marketplace. In other words, what the job should be worth. So what we're trying to do here is to look at, well, we know we're behind because we're having all this turnover.
Yes, we are in that department.
And so what we were looking at is, well, if we had given a reasonable COLA, we wouldn't have had this problem. So basically 10% is roughly 2.5% a year in COLAs. And so what we looked at is we went back as far as 2020 because that's pretty recent. So that's where we picked up your jailers and we picked up your Board of Elections because they weren't to market at 2017. They were to market as of 2020. And then same thing with the airport. We literally took over the airport June 17th. And we had to create all of those job positions then. And I think we did a very good job of doing a job analysis on those. And you put those into effect, so they're only 8 months old. So there's no need to take them up. They're to market.
I have one more question on that.
Yes, ma'am.
At some point, I had heard from Barry that out there we were hiring part-time workers. That problem been solved with the pay out there at the airport?
I'm sorry.
At one point, Barry came and gave us a report that they were using some part-time workers,
Yes.
and the pay was different.
Yeah.
And we discussed this as a board.
Right. And you voted on that.
And we voted on that because we voted to equalize the pay. Is that not right?
For the part-time, yes, it was the same hourly rate.
Right.
They're all doing the same job.
I just want to make sure, I mean, because I really didn't like that people being paid differently.
Well, the problem is, we were taking it over from a private company.
Okay,
So we were changing them from their payroll
so hours,
to your payroll.
okay,
And that's why we studied all of it, and we straightened it up on the front end, is what we did.
that's all,
So
that's
from day
still,
one, when you took over, everything was like it should be.
okay. Thank you. You've answered my
Yes, ma'am.
question.
Any further questions or comments? We have a motion and a second to approve this recommendation, raising all the pay grades two levels, except for the exceptions that have been noted. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
I just want to thank y'all for that. This is probably the biggest problem that I saw when I came here, and you've addressed it. And you've addressed it as quickly as you could, being fiscally responsible. So,
I want to thank our two assistant county managers, Mr. Price and Mr. Haney, Ms. Honeycutt, Ms. McFadden, and you for your hard work on bringing this to our attention and giving us a proposal that we can approve. So, and if I can take just one more minute, I noticed that we've been been joined by Mr. Lockamy, Christian Lockamy, our new Economic Development Director. Glad to have you. Welcome. Glad to be here. All right. We'll move to item 11, the Jetport budget amendment. Mr. Wood, are you or Mr. Price going to do that?
Well, I'll cover the highlights, and Nicole, anything you want to add to that? As y'all know, and we just had this discussion, we took the airport over on June 17th. And so if you remember, we came to you prior to that time with a proposed budget. And I think all of us, board included, realized we were really giving our best estimates at that time because we weren't privy to the financial records of the previous company. It was a private company. And therefore, we had to go on some help from Ms. Pusser, because as you know, she worked for them and we hired her on. So we were going from hers. I had run a comparable airport in Wayne County, so we were able to kind of look at their budget a little bit. We talked to George Futrell over in Duplin County because that's a well-run airport. And so we put it together with the understanding that we'd like to get several months under our belt to where we had a good trend line, and then we come back to you with an amended budget. So that's what we're doing today, because we have about 5.5 months of solid data. We've just finished December, but we don't have the finance report yet, but we do have the first 5 months of the fiscal year. So with that, Coley's been working with Ms. Pusser and Kimberly, and they've come up with this recommendation. And Coley, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you if y'all got any questions about it.
Thanks, Mr. Boone. You explained it very well. Good morning, board members. We are very comfortable with this. We knew it was going to take some time to see where we were at from a revenue standpoint as well as expenditures. I think this is explained, excuse me, in great detail. And Kimberly and Mr. Wood and I have just spent quite a bit of time looking at this, so I would recommend your consideration for it this morning.
And I should point out, the good news is we are taking in about 111,000 more in revenue than we estimated. So we were conservative on that. Now, whatever the difference is between the expenditures and the revenues, you will subsidize from your general fund, but that was always the plan. And airports of this size generally are not self-sufficient. They require a subsidy from the general fund.
I've got two questions. There's an item 527010, purchase for resale, 131, right at $132,000. What is that?
That's the gas. That's the fuel.
Oh, okay, all right. We might put in parentheses fuel, so somebody like me would know what we're talking about.
We may put a parentheses to say fuel.
Yeah, yeah.
Have gas engine.
And then the other thing is, next to the bottom, 544010, banking charges, 15,512. What time period does that cover?
That, I think that is approximated for the year.
Okay.
When the people use their credit cards
Yeah.
at the airport, that's that card fee that's taken. The company that processes that actually takes that away from the revenue that we get, but we still have to count that as an expense. And being local government, we cannot charge or pass a credit card fee onto a customer unless we break even. And because credit card fees or those transaction fees are all over the place, because it depends on, how much you charge during the month. It depends on what card that individual uses. So it's actually impossible to determine if someone uses a MasterCard, it's going to charge you a percentage fee. So local governments tend to absorb those fees themselves. So that should be approximated amount based on previous activity to carry us through the rest of the fiscal year.
When was the last time we did an evaluation on those fees to see if we were getting the best?
You are, the fuel contract is up now. We've made a recommendation. It's going to the airport board Thursday. Wednesday, excuse me, and then it will come back to you on the 11th, which reminds me, we do need to note on here, whatever we need to do legally, that's a work session. We would like you to be able to vote on our contract on the 11th. Do we need to put that in the minutes or what?
It'll need to be put in the agenda for that particular meeting.
For that meeting, okay. We'd like you to vote on it as soon as possible. I tentatively had scheduled it for this, but I was mistaken. Our process is, and we had outlined it for the airport committee and had agreed that they would review the fuel bids and make a recommendation, and then I would make a recommendation to you. So once they have that to us on Wednesday, we'll schedule that for next week.
But does that include, that doesn't include?
It includes the fees.
Does it include the fees?
It does include the fees,
Okay.
because they put on there what they will charge, what each, the different types of cards charge. All they're doing is giving you a pass-through on what those.
Okay.
So they're all, I looked at them, they're all within, one or two are high, but, that's the customer's fault for using a high card.
So these are not really banking charges per se. They're charges from the fuel company. Yeah, convenience fees from the fuel companies.
Right.
As opposed to,
Bank. Yes, that's correct.
When
But
you use a
normally,
credit card, they charge you 2.5%, 3% because you're using the credit card.
right,
but normally that's the category that we put those in.
That's
okay.
right.
So all of that information will be in those, in that information when you get that on the 11th to vote on. And I think the two of you are on the airport committee, so y'all will see it on Wednesday.
All right. Any further questions or comments on this budget amendment?
Mr. Chairman, if you will, for the purposes of the clerk, make a directive to her by vote, asking her to put this matter on the agenda for the work session to be voted on, so she can include that in her notice.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to add this to the voting, as a voting item on the February 11th agenda? February, no. Excuse me, January 11th. You're right. Month ahead.
I make a motion, we add this to the January 11th work session agenda to be voted on.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? All right. Now, this budget amendment, do I hear a motion to approve this budget amendment?
Chairman, I make a motion to approve this Jetport budget amendment.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 4-0. All right, Mr. Wood, the county manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, I had asked Colby to introduce Mr. Lockamy to the community, so.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No, that's fine, that's fine. It's indeed my pleasure this morning to introduce our new Economic Development Director, Mr. Christian Lockamy. Christian brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to our team here. He's over 20 years of experience in city and county government. He has been with Greenville-Pitt County, Elizabeth City, Pasquotank County, and Henderson-Vance County. His experience involves quite an array, recruitment and competitive expansion of companies, managing public-private partnerships, coordinating incentive packages, leading strategic planning efforts, authoring incentive policies, and pursuit and purchase of new industrial sites and buildings and workforce development initiatives. Christian is a graduate of East Carolina University, Pirates, and he is a United States Navy veteran. So we are very pleased to have his knowledge, experience, and expertise coming to Harnett County. And Christian, you know, you come in, it was 80 degrees this weekend. We had a thunderstorm bad this morning. The sun came out at 8 o'clock, and now we're expecting snow. So welcome to Harnett County. If you'd like to say a few words, feel free to do so.
Thank you. Well, again, my name is Christian Lockamy. I'm really glad to be here. I think we've got all the potential in the world here. And so, you know, I think the thing that I can do is I can help you guys focus kind of in the areas that will make the most difference for the community. And I'm a believer that we got to move, and we got to move fast. So I'm excited to be here.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wood?
I think that's pretty much it. Everything else is within your agenda. I do want to mention under C, North Carolina Department of State Treasurer Retirement System Division, contribution-based benefit cap report. This is a standard report you'll get once a year from the Treasurer's Office. There was a law passed probably almost a decade ago now that I believe it's the cap is $100,000. So any of your employees that make over $100,000, there's a cap on what the state will pay there, and that you may be on the hook for the difference. What precipitated this was several people were spiking their last 3 or 4 years, and so this is what the state came up with to try to tamp that down. So we don't think it's a big liability, and what they show on that report is just a possibility of. It doesn't mean you'll necessarily have to pay it. But I wanted to make those comments to you. I wanted you to understand what the genesis of that was. So with that, I believe that's everything we've got.
I think so. Any new business to come before the board?
I would ask,
Yes,
if I
ma'am.
may, this Johnson Lee and Harnett Community Action Community Service Block Grant. Could you explain that a little bit?
They go through, they ask for a community services block grant every year. And that helps support community action throughout the year. By law, they have to get your approval. And so we're asking, we wanted you to be aware that they are going after that. And we fully support that.
I know, I fully support it too, because you would be amazed to what service they bring to Harnett County.
Right.
And that was the reason I was asking about the block.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand what they do, but I'm sure the board does, and the benefits that they bring to Harnett County. That's really nice.
Anything else? Do we have need for a closed session?
We do if the legal staff is here. I see that neither of them are here at the meeting. Are they here? Okay. I didn't see Chris. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go into closed session to consult with the county legal counsel in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege concerning the handling of certain claims and litigation, including the following cases. Terry Antona, Bedrick versus what is this?
Megan.
Megan versus the U.S. District Court, file number 521 CT 3240-D. And Patricia Rivers versus County of Harnett County Industrial Commission file 221-2009812. That is my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and second to go into closed session. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? We will now consider ourselves in closed session. Thank everyone for coming, and open session. Any further business to come before us?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? We are adjourned.